We've already visited Watkins Glen and Imola. Tonight we head to the new Red Bull Ring circuits for round 3 of the Wave Italy Apex Racing League GT Championship. We've had to wait a while for Austria's premier racetrack to come to iRacing, but we are delighted to now have access to this 4.3 kilometers of tarmac racing through the picturesque Styrian hills. It has been a remarkable start to the season, several veterans taking glory in the first couple of meetings, and Pal had only taken one race win out of his first 50 entries in the ARL GT Championship, but the American has come back a new man for this season, taking the first 2 wins of the season and a championship lead. Jensen Adriansen has had even more experience in this series, and whilst he did take the amateur class title last season, a race win had always eluded him until last time out, when he was able to clinch an overall race victory for the first time. And with his teammate Tom Brown finishing second place, they were able to clinch Indy Autosport's first 1-2 in ARL's history. My name is Sam Fitzpatrick. Dane Baird joins me in the commentary box. Mark Chanter and Sam Kumar working in the background to deliver a terrific broadcast on Apex Racing TV. And also a huge thanks to Andy Taylor, Christian Steenberg and Colin Weatherholt for producing our stunning graphics and video content. And also thanks to Wave Italy, the title sponsor for the Apex Racing League GT Championship, for supporting the series and offering some super prizes for the top drivers in both the Pro and Am Drivers Championships. Wave Italy aims to offer the best experience in driver simulation by conveying the thrill of a real-life race to casual racers and professionals in sim racing. They offer extremely realistic devices that can be used for corporate and private events, along with personal use as well. Their driver tuition is also a fantastic way to improve your sim racing performance. Dane, we have had quite a bit of racing in real life around this circuit in the last couple of weeks, a couple of Formula 1 races, and so whilst this is a new circuit for the Jasper, whilst it is a circuit that they may never have raced around before, I'm pretty sure they'll all know it very well.
Yeah, it's a very popular circuit in F1 as well, because it seems to be giving us pretty good races recently, which is something that F1 has been lacking in recent years. The 2 races last year were pretty good. The race last weekend wasn't particularly good, but we had a pretty good race, I would say, earlier on today, and hopefully we can get 2 good races in the Apex Racing League GT Championship here today. And we've got a very brand new circuit for the drivers. Most of them have never raced here ever on iRacing. The circuit's only been on here for 26 days, and let's take a look at it in a bit more detail. We start off with 300 meters of a run up the hill in towards Niki Lauda curve, a 90-degree right-hander with a nice big yellow sausage curve on the exit to dissuade any experimentation with track limits. Exit speed's crucial here because it will be carried all the way up the hill towards the hairpin at turn 2, one of the best overtaking spots on the circuit, and also the hardest braking zone. Then you have the run down the hill towards turn 3. Tricky downhill braking zone here, and another good overtaking opportunity for the drivers tonight. Prepare for some side-by-side action here. And then you've also got turn 4, which is basically flat out for the drivers, and it just merges with the exit of turn 3. The drivers don't really even realize that it's a separate corner. And then they've got to pick their turn-in point for turn 5. Tricky, this one. Long left-hander. Gravel on the outside, not too far from the track's edge, so they'll try not to run too deep, the drivers throughout today's race. Turn 6 and 7, pretty quick through there, bit of a lift and a tap of the brakes for turn 6, and flat out through turn 7. Track limits basically non-existent through this part of the circuit. Turn 8, pretty fast through here again, and running out extremely wide, all 4 wheels, miles off the circuit here. Drivers won't get a 1x for a very far distance off the circuit here. Turn 9, getting a good run through here is essential because you'll carry that speed all the way down the main straight, up the hill, and back towards Niki Lauda curve to start another lap. Circuit's opened in 1975 and has undergone quite a few modifications over the years, the most notable being the transformation into the A1 ring in 1996, and then it was renamed, of course, to the Red Bull ring in 2011. 2.6 miles or 4.3 kilometers depending on your units of choice. And it has 9 corners, 6 to the right, and only 3 to the left. It's one of the shortest that we'll visit in this Apex Racing League GT calendar. And the circuit, as I said earlier, has only been on the service for 26 days, so for many of the drivers, it will be the first time they ever race on the iRacing platform, and most of them will be the first time that they have a race start here which will be crucial into Niki Lauda curve. GTE cars have never raced here in official series, Sam, so that might cause a bit of havoc at the start. But we do have 11 drivers starting from the pits, of course, so that might help keep it a little bit cleaner.
Yes, there's a lot of drivers with penalties to serve, so you're absolutely right. That might just reduce the incidents heading into turn 1 on the first lap. We've seen the various GTE cars which are available to the drivers to run. And for this track, Dane, I feel like this is one of the most extreme high-speed circuits we visit all season. I mean, I don't think we've got Monza for this season, but this is really up there in terms of speeds. And when we visited this place in the GT Trophy, it was the BMWs which were absolutely dominating. Those were the fastest cars at the end of the straights, and so we could potentially see quite an advantage for the high-speed cars tonight compared to, of course, Imola, where we visited last time out, which is a much more technical circuit.
Yep, for sure. We've had quite a large shift to the Corvette, the C8R in GTE, and yeah, quite a few drivers swap into that because it's been the fastest car quite clearly in the first couple of rounds. So just like most of the drivers have, well, quite a few of the drivers have been switching over to that car, but I don't think the Corvette is the fastest car at the Red Bull Ring. I don't have too much experience at the circuit myself, like many of the drivers won't, but apparently the Corvette might not have been the best choice for this round, but a lot of the drivers will be looking not just for this round, but for the rest of the season as well. So it's going to be interesting. I've never seen a race here on iRacing at the Red Bull Ring, so it's a new experience for all the drivers and for me as well.
Absolutely, as we have live pictures of the circuits. Just 1 minute 20 remaining of the qualifying session. It's a fairly short lap round this circuit. However, they do have to complete their qualifying lap before the 10-minute elapses. So if you're not already on a lap, you are not going to be able to get across the line. Currently on pole position is Thomas Avanzini. A little bit of a surprise up there. It's Rutterbusch in second place. Then it's Tiamina and Crouch, Lee and Reim and Powell rounding out the top positions. It's super close, Dane, but looking at those looking at those standings, they almost seem to have no relation to what we've seen so far this season. I mean, Avanzini, quality driver in his rookie season. Maybe it's taken him a little bit of time to get up to speed, but wow, a pole position, he would have had long odds on that.
Yeah, definitely, and one of the fastest drivers that we've seen so far this season in Powell was 2.5 tenths off the pace, but that doesn't seem like much, but it's put him down in 7th. Really impressed in Watkins Glen, and then impressed even more in Imola, because Watkins Glen is basically his best circuit. We weren't expecting him to be as quick in Imola, but he was, and yeah, he's down in 7th at the moment. I say down in 7th, that's still pretty high up the order, but not where we're used to seeing him so far this season. We'll look at a little bit further as well. You've got Adriansen's winner in Imola, and he's down in 16th. So yeah, quite a surprising grid in qualifying. Quite a surprising, some surprising names at the top of the timing tower. I wouldn't expect to see a couple of those names up there.
Absolutely, and it's still early on in the season. The drivers get 1 job score. But really, we're still trying to figure out what the pecking order is with so many new and competitive drivers to the series. So it is Avanzini then with his first ARL pole. It was Aaron Powell who took the first couple of, sorry, it was Nicholas Dalby who took the pole at Watkins Glen, Powell who took the pole at Imola. Avanzini is at the top there for Mag Performance Junior. Then it's Mikael Ruttersbusch in second place. Vincenzo Tiamina lines up in third. Then it's James Crouch, Danny Lee, Justin Reim, and championship leader Aaron Powell. Derek Adriansen's top of the amateur drivers in the championship. He lines up at the top of those standings in a terrific 8th place overall. Behind him is Alex Chabert, Chris van der Nesse, Matt Chambers, Christian Engelhardt lines up in 12th. Then it's Tom Bingham, Kevin Kittelman, Dean Powell, Jensen Adriansen, David Gary, Stephen Broomfield, Chris Prescott, Jack Tingy, Colin Mackenzie, and Angel Pedrero. I believe everyone further down has got a pit lane start to serve, or maybe Coulaby I don't think has pit lanes to start to serve, but everyone else does, and that includes Neumeyer, Glenn, Vinbow, Brown, Laubish, Collins, Chessida, Matthews, and maybe not Dominic Linden, who did not set a qualifying time, but it does look like he will grid up for the start. That's a third of the grid starting from the pits for this one. It's quite remarkable.
Yeah, there's a lot of drivers. We saw quite a few incidents last time out at Imola. Basically none at Watkins Glen, but Imola did seem to cause a couple problems for some of the drivers, which is a shame to see. But that means that we basically have 2 race starts, because there's a 10 or 11 second gap between when the first set of drivers on the grid will go through turn 1 and up the hill towards turn 2. And then, yeah, 10 or 11 second gap between them and then the drivers coming out of the pit lane, who will all be coming out in single file, one after the other, you would assume, very quickly. They're all going to be heading up the hill just behind them. So it's quite a large penalty, but it will give us possibly quite a bit of overtaking into turn 2 when we have all those drivers that have taken their pit lane start wanting to get to the front of that train.
Definitely, and it could be a little bit mixed up as well with maybe some of the faster drivers further down. It's a bit of a random order in which they are listed, but there's no doubt who is going to be leading the drivers away. It is Thomas Avanzini. Ruttersbusch just getting ahead of slightly of him, heading into the final corner. We're about to get GTE Racing away here at the Red Bull Ring. The green flag is out and we're away racing for 25 minutes of action. It's a good start for Avanzini, not a bad start for Ruttersbusch as well. He's been able to hold off the attacks from behind Chambers. Rogers Crouch looking very strong on the outside. We've got the car going super wide, crashing into the wall there into turn 1. I think it was Tom Bingham, certainly one of the performance sync drivers, getting involved. Ruttersbusch has got a really good chance heading into turn 3 on the long stretch up the hill, but he isn't quite able to make an impact behind him. Lee trying to get past Tiamina. That's an important position for him to make, as Avanzini runs onto the sausage curb. It's going to affect his traction, and he's really not helped himself whatsoever after a fantastic qualifying performance. He's still in the lead though, Ruttersbusch trying to come back ahead, as you see the divide between the drivers who came into the side of the pits and those who started out on the track. Take a file their way to the first half of the lap.
Yep, and Ruttersbusch is out in front now as well. He's got ahead, so as is Crouch. Both of them getting ahead of the Mac performance driver of Avanzini. So they make their way through turns 6 and 7 now. The drivers through this part of the circuit, you'll see them now. They're going to run all 4 wheels off the circuit, just keep 1 or 2 of them onto the green and white curbs on the outside of the circuit. Through here, you'll see them all the way off the circuit on the exit of turns 8 and turn 9, because there is basically no track limits at this part of the circuit. iRacing trialing their new 4-tyre off-track system, and the limit is all 4 tyres past those green and white curbs. So you'll see the drivers taking liberty with track limits through that part of the circuit. But on other parts of the circuit, like at the exit of turns 1 and 2, they've got those sausage curbs there, so you don't really want to be running over those, because they're going to slow you down and potentially damage your cars. Bit of a battle going on up the hill into turn 2. And Crouch just pushing to push around the turn 2 and up the hill, and now down the hill they will go towards turn 3 once more. This could be a move.
Yeah, Crouch is really on fire at the moment. Ruttersbusch trying to hold him back. Crouch is going the long way round. This didn't work out for a couple of drivers earlier on. These guys a bit more respectable, I think, and maybe a little bit more drivability in these GTE cars as well. Crouch is really working well there around the outside at turn 3. Gets the inside for 4. There may be a bit of netcode contact. Certainly Ruttersbusch had to turn out of the corner, and Crouch leads this race. So after a lap and a half, it is Crouch leading Ruttersbusch. Lee was able to get past Avanzini as well, who's really struggling in these early stages. Tiamini in 5th. Powell's had a pretty good start, up into 6th, up 1 place. And in the amateur category, it's Darragh Adjinson's leading the way in 7th place. Bingham in 11th, so he was all right. It must have been one of his teammates who crashed hard at turn 1. Bingham in 2nd place, and it's David Gowrie rounding out the top 3 with 22 minutes to go.
Yep, and it's massively shifted up order there, and you can see some of the drivers having to serve a pit lane start, starting to make their way through the field. It is going to be interesting though, because quite a few of the drivers are a lot further down than they would normally be. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see them make their way through the field, especially in this opening race. A couple of the drivers even have pit lane starts for race 2 as well. So yeah, this is going to be really interesting, especially with reverse grid that we've got. Overtaking here should be easier than at some other circuits. We've seen that in Formula 1, so you would expect it to carry over into these GTE cars, but like I said, I really have never seen these cars race at this circuit, so everything is going to be new here. But from what we've seen so far, it looks like overtaking should be possible. And there goes Dean Powell up the inside of Broomfield for a move, and Broomfield's actually got the switch back, and he's gained the place back. They're going to go side by side now into turn 5, and I think Powell's just had to back out of that one, and we'll have to try again.
Yeah, he's just lost out on that one as Powell, as Bingham is under pressure from Kittleman here. Kittleman trying to maybe help out his teammate Adjinsons if he possibly can. But they just about has enough now. I really expected the BMWs to be quick around this place. I think they are the fastest cars down the straight, but there's not too many of them in the top positions. In fact, Bingham is the highest placed BMW, but there are only 4 out on the track, so maybe not a great representation. Bingham considerably slower than the drivers ahead that last time round. Chambers looks like he's going to lose his position here to Justin Rame if he's not careful. It's also side by side for second position further up between Ruttersbusch and Lee. Chambers has been able to hold on to that, but maybe picking up a bit of draft from Darren Adjinson's just ahead, and Lee was not able to make the move on Ruttersbusch. They remain in second and third, but the Patsy staying in at the Red Bull Ring. We are going to see more overtakes potentially into turn 3. Again though, Chambers with that good straight line speed, it is keeping him ahead of the Volante Racing driver.
Yep, and let's take a look at a replay of lap 1, turn 1 then. At the start, looking back at Chris van der Nesse in the Performance Link BMW, and he's got them going 3 wide, down on his inside, a couple of drivers sending it hard up the inside. And a bit of contact, turns around the portion. Yeah, Chris, a bit of an innocent bystander in that one, just gets a little bit of a tap to the side and loses a couple of positions. We did see a driver in front getting sent into the outside wall. Looks like, it almost looked like the brakes just didn't work at when we saw it live the first time, but I'm not too sure what exactly happened there. It was a very odd one at the start of the race with a couple of drivers going off there at turn 1. But back to live pictures. And we've got side by side now between Bingham and Kittle.
Bingham lets him have that one. These are 2 of the most experienced drivers in the series. A lot of respect to one another, as that's a big slide for Gary just behind. You can see that he could move up a place in the amateur race, but he has messed up that one right there. Just off air, there was an issue for, I believe it was Stephen Broomfield. He were very nearly spun in the middle sector of the lap, so he has fallen away from these drivers. That's why he's a bit further back now, and down into 18th place, back to where he started. As Bingham, well, he kind of let the position go. Maybe he's feeling, oh, maybe I'm a bit faster than you. Now he does back out of it, but I would not bet against him maybe coming back later on in the race as he gets some with that. Crouch had been able to open up about a 1 second lead, gets back down to 6/10 once again. He is seemingly the fastest driver out there at the moment, but he cannot rest on his laurels, especially a quality driver, and he might be able to come back. And feel like it's the same story once again for Danny Lee out here, Dane. He spent the whole season, it seems, tucked behind someone else's rear wing. He led for a bit at Watkins Glen, but he's constantly trying to overtake drivers, but he's not been able to overtake too many so far this season, as Tiamina is showing how he's done. He's up to 4th place.
Oh, a little bit of contact into turn 1, and that is Avanzini from pole position. He's all the way around into the gravel on the outside of turn 1, down to 10th place. He might lose another position to Kittleman, depending on how well Kittleman got a run out of turn 1. It's actually, the gap is about a second, so I don't think he will be, but definitely some contact into turn 1, sending Avanzini around. And there's a lockup from Chambers, well, not from Chambers, sorry, from Powell, and his teammate at Evo SR of Chambers is just going to switch past on the inside, and he's going to take that position before they reach the braking zone, almost actually getting rear-ended by his teammate. Hopefully we don't see that, but yeah, some of the drivers making their moves early on in the race. And dear, Adjinson's passing his fellow Adjinsons, and that is Derek, who is, of course, he was leading the ambulance, but now dropping down the order. It looks like maybe a similar incident to what we saw a couple of times in F1 over the past couple of weeks. And there's another one off. Yeah.
And I think he was it Mackenzie collided with, I'm not sure. He was making his way through the order, was Nehemiah, after starting from the pits. That is bad news for him. Now, 14th place is the reverse grid spot. It's the smallest reverse we can possibly get. As I mean, they can use a lot of track limits. I think that's pushing it a little bit back there for Atkinson. So this is really important that Atkinson keeps behind Trevor. It means that Bingham and Gary are now fighting for the amateur race win. So that is quite a significant change. Rare mistake. Darragh Atkinson, who is leading the championship after the first couple of meetings of the season.
Yeah, there's quite a few damaged cars out there. There's a bit of contact being made in the opening few laps of the race, the opening 10 minutes or so in the race, and side by side once again into turn 2. This is Finland trying to get past Phil in the Ferrari, and it looks like he might actually have a good run here, heading down in towards turn 3. Going to go to the outside. It's not the easiest place to make a move, and he's just going to have to file back, maybe try and go for the switchback, but not quite there for him. Going to have to try again on another occasion, but this is very promising, Sam. We've seen so many overtakes.
Definitely, yeah, and look how close Ritzbush still is to Crouch. It's a real strong slipstream effect around this circuit. You can pick it up, goes down the front stretch, and then heading into 2, heading into 3, and even going into the penultimate corner, there's a fairly long straight which you can pick it up. It seems fairly insignificant compared to the others, but every little helps in these cars. So Ritzbush quite comfortably keeping up with Crouch. The top 4 really sprinting away from the others. We did have an issue earlier on for Avanzini. So he has really fallen away from these drivers. Powell has just got back past Chambers, by the way. So the Evo SR cars swap positions once again. And so it is Powell ahead of Chambers and Grant in 5th position once again. This is a bit of a queue right now, but behind Traber. Apologies, behind Bing Glenn. And in fact, Glenn's been able to make that move then on Broomfield, who drops down a position. Also just off the circuit, there is a back marker in the Porsche. I think that may have been Tom Brown on that occasion, just saying view of the driver's go. But good drive so far from Nicholas Albee. She's the highest running driver. He starts from the pit side.
Yep, that's being confirmed. So doing a fairly good job out there in the Porsche. Looks to be one of the quickest drivers out there on the circuit for the first couple of rounds. And looks like he's pretty quick here at the Red Bull Ring as well. Meanwhile, still out in front. Here's Crouch, but that gap is not the biggest, and as you've seen quite a lot so far in the race in the first 12 minutes, the overtaking is very possible, so he does have to keep an eye on the driver just behind him in the fellow Corvette. The top 4 drivers all in the Corvettes now that Avanzini's been taken out, so yeah, Corvette seems to still be the car to be in. In fact, it looks like the top 6 are all in Corvettes, as we just got a shot of them in the background. Now we're going to see a move being made for 3rd here, with Lee under pressure from the Mag Performance and Racing Team Junior driver of Vincenzo Talmini.
It might be worth Tiamina just waiting behind, honestly. It's, well, Albee versus Nehemiah, that's in the 20th position. These are 2 of the highest quality drivers in the season. In fact, I think they might be the 2 highest I-rated drivers in the series, but they started from the pits, and so they are duking it out all these fairly lowly positions, because Nehemiah is going to come out on top right here. And they do need to try to get within that reverse grid if they possibly can. It's at the 14th position. Bad news for them, so they're over 10 seconds away from that, and whilst they are very quick, with traffic compounding the problem, it's fairly unlikely they are going to be starting near the front for race 2. Chris Prescott, meanwhile, making a move on Kulaby right there. And Tom Collins, I think, is going to move through as well. Collins having a look. But it's very tricky to make a move into these final couple of corners. Just got to pick your line right. Collins, is he going to go for it? He's really held up. And now there's a spin as well for James Coulaby, and he drops to a distance 24th now.
I think there might be an issue for Mackenzie. He's just dropped back from 19th down to 21st. So potentially a slowdown because Norman and Amish both getting ahead. Engelhardt having connection problems, dropping out for a second. Now is back on the circuit, but that's got to be a little bit off-putting for Neumann. I know I was doing some races during the week, and having a driver blinking right in front of you is quite off-putting. So it's not ideal when you're trying to make your way up through the field. As we now cast our eyes on two USR Corvettes with Justin Brent just behind.
Yeah, Rames caught back up to these drivers. He had dropped back slightly himself, but it's right with them again. And yeah, they need to try to figure out who's the slightly faster. I think Powell has got the slight advantage, but really the draft effect just seems so strong around this circuit that Chambers is able to keep up. We did see that in the GT Trophy, in the GT3 cars a couple of weeks ago. I think these guys are even more evenly matched than those guys, and I think we had a 6-car battle for the lead for the first half an hour or so. Really tricky to break it all up. So just need to try to stay as close as possible. Chambers with a poor run through turn 1, but he's able to get away from it. Neumeier is up into 17th now, 3 places more to go with 10 minutes to go. And I think Laubich will very quickly be past Broomfield as well. Now got Glenn. Look how Glenn has been able to sprint away from these guys. He only got past Broomfield about 3 laps ago. And yet he's in a different postcode already. Laubich almost clipping the back of Neumeier. Got it stopped though. And yeah, they just got to try to catch up as much as possible and look for some incidents ahead from here on.
Getting close to that reverse pole of 14th position, but yeah, that's 10 seconds. So although it looks close in terms of positions, it is quite a large gap to have to make up in 9 minutes. But Neumeier probably one of the quickest drivers in the series, I would say. I think I saw somewhere that he had 9,000 hour rating. I have to go and double check that, but definitely one of the more skilled drivers out on the circuit at the moment. And if you had to put money on anyone, try and make up a 10-second gap in 9 laps, 9 minutes, I would probably pick Neumeier.
Yeah, that'd be a good place to put your chips. Chambers is, well, I'm getting confused now because James got a fairly similar livery to these guys. Once again, a little bit of a green on it. But no, he is definitely in a different team compared to the Evo SR drivers. And yeah, Chambers once again super close. They're just making their way past us on that occasion. His teammate, his Centurion Racing team teammate, David Gary, taking up to 11. And this is for the amateur race lead. Bingham is going to try to fight this one. Gary has it covered. The top 2 BMW's top 2 amateur drivers. And it's Gary who now leads the way. Excellent for him. But despite a spin earlier on for Darren Atkinson, he's almost caught back up to these drivers. So the top 3 in the amateur category are right next to one another.
Yeah, this is heating up a bit with 7.5 minutes to go in the race. There's not much left in it, and good points haul for some of these drivers, but you've also got to realise that every position they go up from here is a position further back they start in the second race, so that might start to play into the minds of some of the drivers, especially if you've got the pro drivers that are going to be in front of you or behind you from that reverse grid. It's definitely wise to try and stay as close to the front of that as possible. Because yeah, whilst the drivers behind you in your man category are fighting with the pro drivers, trying to keep them behind, you can escape off into the distance at least. That will be the plan. A couple of them. Atkinson looks like he might be a bit too far behind to catch up and overtake Bingham in the rest of this race. We'll have to see. As looks like Powell went a little bit deep into turn 3. It's a very odd corner numbering system they've got here on iRacing, because some of the corners that you have in the official layout, so turn 2 in the official layout is the king before what's turn 2 on iRacing. So some weird differences in the corner numbering systems, and just like Graham has just found some speed through turn 6 and 7, and right on the back of Chambers now, heading up toward turn 8, but just drops back a bit.
Well, it's been incredible to watch on this offer that the landscape of this Red Bull Ring circuit. It's also the job that iRacing have done to model the mountains in the background and all the technical stuff. But what was more remarkable is just how slow Raim is down the straights. Maybe it's how fast Chambers is down the straights. He can't keep up. He's much, much slower, as we're about to get a replay of an incident earlier on in the race. And this was Collins versus Mackenzie earlier on. Running on board with Collins, trying to make the move past. And it seemed like he did eventually get it past into the penultimate corner.
Ooh.
What a move that is.
Mackenzie got a little bit loose there on the inside, had to do a bit of correcting, but that was a brilliant move, swooping around the outside. Back to live pictures, well, that is Prescott and Mackenzie. So Mackenzie back on the screen, but now he's joined by Chris Van Den Essay and Prescott, who had a bit of an issue into turn 1, I think, a bit sideways over the curve.
Yeah, I think Mackenzie just pushed out Prescott slightly, and Van Den Essay managed to get past himself. Van Den Essay, with problems earlier on, managed to escape too much damage. Trying to line up the move, actually heading into turn 3. He did not manage to pull it off later. Van Den Essay still behind Mackenzie out on track, as Powell's dropped Chambers a bit now, but I mean, it's pointless. If Raim's slow down the straight, he can't overtake. I mean, it's pretty much that simple. You know, it is quite a complex middle part of the lap, but if he pulls out, then the Ferrari will just, or the Corvette, so will just start to pull away again.
Yeah, it was a really demoralising sight that we just saw there from on board Raim, is that he got a good exit out of the final corner, pulled into the draft of Chambers, and then started dropping back. And there's nothing worse than coming out of the corner faster than the driver ahead of you, and then they just pull away as if they're in a completely different class. The Corvette really has a bit of an advantage over the rest of the cars, it seems, so far in the earlier parts of the season. There were some BOP adjustments by iRacing, I think, in the week, and it doesn't look like they've done too much to slow the Corvette down. It looks like they might have helped a little bit, which I don't think it really needed. And you can see that because the top 6 are all in the Corvette. Raim, despite possibly being faster in like a single lap, just cannot get past Chambers because he just doesn't have the straight line speed to do so. Like you said, it's all well and good being fast in the corners, but you can't really overtake them.
Yeah, he's really in a tricky situation. He did qualify a couple of tenths faster, but yeah, in the race, as you lose track position, it is very tricky to get it back. So let's see what the gap comes down to between Crouch and Woodsbush up into turn 2. It was 0.6 of a second, and actually it's actually maintaining between the two drivers. You can see in the battle box in the bottom right. So he tries to pull up a dummy, a bit like what he tries to do at Watkins Glen into the heel part of the lap, and I don't think it worked out for him on that occasion. It didn't work out for him on this occasion either. This is allowing Crouch to sprint away, but he's going to win this race. He does go for the dummy this time. He really does enjoy that one, and he's perhaps got the upper hand here against his rival. Gets the power down. Takes a very tight line there, does Lee. Perhaps could have carried a bit more speed, but he has got his nose ahead into the long left-hander. Saw Charles Leclerc being pushed off into the gravel earlier on in the Formula 1 round that corner. No such issues for the drivers this time, but it is Lee who comes out behind, and with a big slide for him as well through the chicane. It very much compromises his exit, but that may have just won James Crouch this race. I think he looked very strong beforehand, but he's broken that draft. He's got a cushion, and I really can't see any stopping him now.
Yeah, he's doing a brilliant job out there in front with the gap he has now. It looks very unlikely that the drivers behind are going to be able to catch him back up. So really good job from him. And looking back, we've got a whole gag of cars here coming through into what is the final couple of corners here. You can see them running all sorts of wide over the curbs, trying to use as much speed as possible. That's a bit too far for Trevor, who's going to have an off track. And yeah, they're side by side, and is that how many it is? So this is 3 drivers battling for second, third, fourth and out on what is going to be the penultimate lap of the race. So great stuff that we're seeing here, and Lee might just lose out here from Taomini. He's going to try the switchback. I think he is, but it's not going to help him much because he's going to get stuck on the outside for turn 5 once again, and all that's allowing is Ritterbusch to try and make a bit of an escape from the 2 drivers behind. So now we've got a battle for third instead of for second between Lee and Taomini, who just sort of come out of nowhere in this last lap or
so. It's flashbacks to Watkins Glen once again, with Lee trying to make something happen in third position, but ending up in fourth despite feeling like he's faster than these other drivers. It just seems to always go negatively for him. Too bad, he's still scoring good points, and it will promote him on the grid for race 2, but his racecraft so far this season, he has usually up behind. The white flag is at the final lap of the race, and Coach has got a 1.7-second advantage. There's only a mistake would deny him the race win. This is for reverse grid pole. Avanzini is put in pole split, but started in pole position. And in fact, Avanzini has had another issue because he was running in 10th. Even after his issue, he was running in 10th. And I wonder if actually maybe he's got damage because he's now got Ving Glenn right on his toe. He's been absolutely storming along so far in this race. And whoever comes out on top of that one will have a fantastic advantage when it comes to race 2. Bingham's not safe either. He's an amateur driver in all of this, in the slower BMW, and he's only just cleared.
Yeah, pretty close racing on the final lap for these drivers as well. And there goes Neumann. He's going to send on the inside of Traber, and he makes that move up the inside. Is brilliant stuff from him up to 16th now. He'll have his eyes set on Glenn ahead, but I don't think that's realistically going to happen for him. And it looks like he'll be starting from 16th on the grid in race number 2 in a few minutes time. But Avanzini now into the last real overtaking opportunity. He makes it through without losing any position, so it looks like he might just be on for reverse grid pole.
Around the final corner comes James Crouch. Is going to take his first race win of the season. It's an awesome performance from the USR driver, and he takes the win at Red Bull Ring. Ritterbusch was able to beat Tiamina. Lee came into the pits. I wonder if he had reached the instant limit. If so, that will not serve it, Danny, and this might change the complexion for the reverse grid race. Gary ahead of Carl Atkinson is going to win in the amateur category. Bingham is going to beat Avanzini, and Glenn is just going to be slightly short of these other drivers. But with that potential penalty for Danny Lee, we will have to wait for the checker flag in order to know for sure what the final positions are.
It was a penalty. He tried to serve a penalty, and you can't do it on the last lap. You're going to get that terrible, I'm not sure what it is. I think it might be 20 seconds, 25 seconds.
I think it's 40.
40 seconds, that would be even worse for him. If he's gone and served it, you lose even more time. So if you have that black flag on the final lap, just don't take it. Just go around the normal route of the circuit. You're going to get that anyway. So they'll have to wait for everyone to cross the line, and then we'll see him probably drop down the order. We've seen those final results, just waiting on a couple more drivers to finish the race. But yeah, that's terrible for Lee. So not only has he lost out on second position, and then lost out on third as well, looks like he's lost out on finishing anywhere close to the front of the grid. If that was indeed a penalty, I'm seeing on my screen, I think it was.
Yeah, that is absolutely gutsing for him. We'll go through those results in just a moment. But of course, if you've enjoyed this stream, do make sure to watch the rest of it. Race 2 is coming up in a moment, and also subscribe as well to Apex Racing TV. Check out our Twitch channel as well, if that's where you prefer to watch your live streams. and also Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, where we're constantly posting updates and highlights for all of our races. We've got 20 odd events happening every single week on Apex Racing TV, so do certainly check it out. This series is also sponsored by Apex Racing Academy, and we're going to show you a little bit of a trailer about Apex Racing Academy, about the services that they provide. But we'll be right back with you very soon on Apex Racing TV for race 2 of the evening. Thanks to Apex Racing Academy, who provide setups, track guides, weekly group coaching sessions for a variety of cars, 29 different cars, and all of those resources are relevant as well for those cars because it follows the official series. So if you want to improve your iRacing performance, Apex Racing Academy is the place to go. The results then for race 1 of the evening are pretty much finalized, I believe, and it was a terrific win in the end for James Crouch, who was able to take his first race win of the season, I believe his 5th race win in Apex Racing League GT history, maybe 4th race win, but he's got a few, and that's his as well. That's now wins in 3 different seasons as well, which is very impressive. Miko Rutersbusch was in 2nd place. Then it was Vincenzo Tiamina. Aaron Powell ended up in 4th place, and I think actually extends his championship lead. Matthew Chambers, his teammate, was right behind him. Then it was Justin Rehm. Jensen Adjensons was in 7th place. Then it was Kevin Kitzman. Derek Adjensons, despite a spin, still managed to win in the amateur category. Superb performance from the Triple T. Then it was David Gary, Dean Powell, Tom Bingham, Thomas Avanzini, and Vin Glenn in a crucial 14th position there for Glenn. I think he started from the pit, so mighty performance from him, and he gets a reverse grid pole, probably the favourite for race 2. Behind him was Michael Neumeyer, who just missed out. So too did Nicholas Dalbeach, and Danny Lee did get what seems to me like about a 30-second penalty. He was 41 seconds off the lead in the end. He tried to serve it. Even if he hadn't have tried to serve it, he would have still missed out on the reverse grid. Tom Collins was behind him. Then it was Chris Van Den Esse, Chris Prescott, Colin Mackenzie, Stephen Broomfield, John Tressida, Christian Engelhardt, Alex Traber, Nicholas Matthews, Angel Pedrero, Emil Vinbe, Tom Brown, James Coulibaly, Jack Tingy, and Dominic Linton. So that's really changed the complexion of the evening, I think, honestly, Dane. I mean, if Lee took that, it's good points for him in the championship. It wouldn't have been too bad a position for him on the reverse grid because it's quite a small reverse tonight. And crucially, we would have had Avanzini on pole rather than Glenn. But, you know, one driver dropping down the order, and I think any predictions for that race 2 have got to be heavily altered now.
Yep, it's going to be very different. You've also got Neumeier up a spot 2 for that grid, so he's going to be a little bit happier with his performance from race 1. If only he could have got that extra spot, I think it would be untouchable if he had ended up on reverse grid pole. But you've got to watch out for the drivers who ended up at the front of the results for race number 1, because very, very quick drivers starting from the midfield in this race. It's not a massive reverse grid, but it's big enough that the drivers are going to have a bit of a tough time trying to get through the slightly slower drivers that finished behind them in race number 1. It's definitely going to be an interesting race, especially with that reverse grid. It's going to cause a couple of problems, I think, for some of the drivers trying to make their way through. And some of the drivers that finished further back in the field, they're being thrown up to the front, so they've got to prove themselves now. As we saw last time out at Imola, a couple of drivers proving themselves there. We didn't really expect the drivers who ended up at the front of the field to be there at Imola. I think we might see the same thing here in the second race today at Red Bull Ring.
Yes, as the drivers start to grid up now for race 2 of the evening, and on pole position it will be Vin Glenn ahead of Thomas Avanzini, Tom Bingham in 3rd position, top of the amateur drivers. It's Dean Powell, David Gowrie, Dara Adjinsons, Kevin Kittelman, Jensen Adjinsons, Justin Rehm and Matt Chambers running out the top 10. Behind that it's Powell. Tia Mina lines up in 12th position. 13th, it's Wurtersbusch. Race 1 winner, James Crouch, lines up in 14th. Then it's Newmeyer and Laubich. Really watch out, that's a quality 13th down to 16th place there. So too Danny Lee, to be fair, in 17th. Then it's Tom Collins, Chris Van Den Nesse, Chris Prescott, Colin Mackenzie, Stephen Broomfield, John Tressida, Christian Engelhardt lines up in 24th. Then it is Alex Chaber, Nicholas Matthews, Angel Pedrero, Emil Binbo, Tom Brown, James Koulibaly, Jack Tingy and Dominic Linton. Big thanks as well to Wave Italy, by the way, the title sponsor for this, the Apex Racing League GT Championship. They are offering some super prizes for the top drivers in the Pro and Amp Drivers Championships with some elite level pedals and also a free half-day training at their driver base in Verona. Big thanks to Wave Italy, and do check them out. You can use the discount code Apex Racing 5 in order to get a 5% discount on Wave Italy products. The drivers are rounding the penultimate corner at the moment to get race 2 of the evening underway. The field is under the control of Vin Glenn. It's his choice when to go. In fact, it's Avanzini who has taken the pole position because Glenn was not able to take the start, and so it is Avanzini who leads the way, but it's Bingham with a phenomenal start, perhaps taking the lead into Niki Lauda curve for the first time. He's all over the place at the moment, it's Avanzini, but as long as he gets a good exit, he should be able to hold on. It's 2 by 2 all the way down the order. The Indy Autosports drivers filing into single file. That was Adjinsons and Kittelman, 5th and 6th positions. Also, the EBSR drivers very close with Newmeyer trying to take advantage of it. Avanzini leads the way, Bingham in 2nd place. A strong start for Aaron Powell as well, championship leader, but there's going to be plenty of changes, I think, for position in these first couple of laps.
Yep, absolutely. Looks like we all made it through clean through turn 1, and they're still side by side even now through turns 3 and 4. Someone's checked up a bit, the 150, and that caused a bit of drama for one of the EBSR cars, I believe. But to check up a little bit to avoid slamming into the back. And yes, still side by side now. Oh, very loose for Neumeier as well. He's managed to get himself up to 11th and now trying to make his way up to 10th as well, going side by side with Chambers just in front of him, side by side as well. Rehm and Gowrie, and Rehm had a problem getting past the Corvettes. Doesn't look like he has much of a problem getting past BMWs around the outside of turn 8. He goes, runs a little bit wide, but makes the move stick, and they're still side by side, some of the drivers, even through turn 9.
Well, that was gutsy, running side by side through that part of the circuit. Most of the drivers are alongside with one another. Very few drivers with the tracks themselves. Look at Newmeyer. He's made it 3 wide heading into turn 1. It's a very good move for himself, albeit he's got a poor exit from all of that. But off in the background was Matt Chambers there, who lost out significantly. One of the front runners from race 1. That was bold there from Newmeyer, but it did work out well for him. Going so on the inside there is David Gowrie, the amateur driver, maybe feeling like it's not worth battling with some of these pro drivers, but Newmeyer wasting absolutely no time, and Kittelman also having a little bit of a problem. Has Kittelman got damage there? He's very slow on the inside.
I think it might be a slowdown for him. I'm not too sure where he would have got it, maybe turn 1 or turn 2, but I don't see any damage for him. I didn't see him make any contact either. Oh, there's a car around, there's a car making contact with the wall. Is that Gowrie? I think in the BMW for racing it is. And he stops on the side of the track. Now they're still going side by side. This is incredible stuff here at the Red Bull Ring. It's easily one of my favourite circuits to watch racing at now on iRacing, thanks to this. And so they're trying to work their way into some sort of single file order so they can start picking their moves, but it's still a mad scramble in the midfield here, around about where the reverse grid was, as Broomfield's now just got ahead of Prescott, and they're still side by side now through the final corner. It looks like for the most part we are back to single file. The drivers have a little bit more time to think about what they're doing.
Yes. 2 laps into this race. It's absolutely crazy. It's Aberdeen leads the way. Bingham, Powell, Rain, Powell round out the top 5. That is Dean Palmer away leading Aaron Powell up there in 3rd compared to 5th. In the amateur category, it's Bingham once again at the front with Dan Atkinson and Tom Collins rounding out the top 3. Vinbo looking to the inside. I thought he was going to make it 3 wide like Newmine did a couple of laps ago, but I think he chose the wide option there. But still got a long way to go in this extended race too, and he remains in 19th position. But this is really aggressive racing from the drivers. Crouch is past Van der Nesse there, so great start for Crouch on season. He's only up 3 places. He's actually been overtaken by Tom Collins, who started a few places lower than him, so clearly problems for Crouch. But a bit like him, he's managed to keep the car clean, and it's still got a good chance of good points.
Yeah, there's definitely been problems with Crouch, so at least on my screen, I think on the broadcast as well, he's missing the back of his car, or the back of the driver. So anyways, just the back is gone. So that's a bit of a weird thing for Chris Van der Nesse to be looking at now. It's you're right on board. Yes, it is on the broadcast machine as well. That's really weird that he's lost that part of the car. I'm not too sure how that would have happened, but there's substantial damage to that car, so that will explain why he's only in 11th at the moment. And there is Richard Collins as well. Pretty close together through turn 1. The drivers starting to spread out a little bit, and we'll see some battles start to form. And this is another one of them. Powell and Rain around the outside. He's actually held that very nicely. He might have a good run now down in towards turn 3.
Got no straight line speed though. He needs to get rid of that rear wing, slowing him down. He's excellent through the corners, but oh, this is real tough stuff. And Powell, if he can just get close, honestly, he should be good. I mean, this is not a long straight, but the horsepower advantage, or maybe the drag advantage, should help out. And look at Newmeyer. He's right onto the back of these guys. Newmeyer's absolutely storming along. He's going to be up a position here. He's got past 1, and we know he is not going to hold back one bit, Newmeyer. That move at Niki Lauda really set his intentions for this race 2 of the evening. He's up into 5th. He's up 10 places from his start. He missed out on the rest. It's good by 1 place, and he's making up for that right now. There's almost 2 races going on because this is a good 10-car battle right now, and they're all queued behind Tom Brown at the moment. Albeit Brown's very quick. I think Brown should be able to pull away. I think it's more likely going to be Dominic Linden who gets the pressure from behind.
Well, regardless, there is a large training for me here, but just going back to Neumeyer for a second, he did start in 15th, but he has made his intentions very clear. He is here to race for the win, and it looks like he might be able to make a move on Justin Rain now. He's pulled to the inside. We know that Rain has absolutely no straight line speed whatsoever. Neumeyer has no such issues, so you'd expect him to pull to the left-hand side of the screen or to the right-hand side of the circuit now and try and make a move, but Rain defending that inside line and Neumeyer having to back out. He's going for the switchback. There he goes to the inside. Oh no, Powell up the inside, side by side now between Powell and Neumeyer, and that wasn't in the plan for Neumeyer, but luckily he has that inside line, which is going to help him out a lot as they head through turn 5 now. And Powell actually doing something very clever as Neumeyer heads to the inside. He actually sends it up the inside of Rain through turn 5. Now through 6 and 7, Rain's going to have the inside at turn 7, pulls ahead slightly. Will Neumeyer be able to hold it around the outside at turn 8, as we saw Rain do earlier on in the race? I think he just about might to, but either way, he's going to have that straight line speed advantage through the main straight. He's finding it much more difficult than I thought he would to get past there. And oh yes, that's not good for Kittelman. He's ended up facing the wrong way on the inside of the circuit.
Yeah, I think that was... I think Powell gave Newmeyer a tap, and Kittelman had pretty much nowhere to go. He's spun round and will be sent to the back of the order. That's a shame. That's one of the worst places he can spin as well. So Rain really doesn't have much of a defence there. Newmeyer's still only 5 seconds off the lead. Aberdeen has not made much of a gap so far, but this is certainly helping Aberdeen's chances of taking this race win, with Newmeyer being really fought hard by Justin Rain. Great battle from the turn, but Newmeyer is aggressive. but so far, at least in that battle, I think he's been largely on the fair side of things. Van der Nesse is now under pressure from apologies, Collins. This is, should be two fairly evenly matched drivers, honestly, two of the top amateur drivers are batting for third place in the amateur category. It's Van der Nesse who is currently ahead. In fact, I think that's a move on. He was certainly faster than his rival on that last lap, so Van der Nesse showing some good speed.
Yeah, and up into the top 10 as well. Chambers just behind Vinbo here. Vinbo involved in an incident on lap 1 of the first race, ended up a lap down fairly early on and started quite low down on the grid in this race as well, but he's up into 13th at the moment. And Chambers, who of course had that incident into Niki Lauda where Neumeier sent it up the inside of him and Avanzini, I think it was, in the end. So yeah, he's trying to fight his way back up through the field. I would be surprised if he didn't have damage from that on the floor, because he hit both the inside and the outside curves, I think, did Chambers. Well, not the inside, just the outside sausage curve there. So I would be surprised if he didn't have some maybe damage to the floor of his car, because that's quite a large curve. We saw earlier on today in the F1 Lewis Hamilton getting damage from that outside turn.
He's got that a couple of times in 6 years, I think, as Lewis. And yeah, these curves are absolutely vicious. To be fair, the drivers aren't using the curves that much, quite as maybe dangerous. Oh no, that is Collins round. Tom Collins is round. And that is an awkward position to rejoin. Got to wait, turn off the traction control, and then do a nice 180. It's a lot easier said than done in the moment where you need a nice quick dial that you can turn down. And he does help you in those situations. It's Powell versus Powell. This is not confusing whatsoever. Deep Powell ahead of Aaron Powell and championship leader. That's actually mainly the battle's going on just behind him, because Aaron's under pressure from Darren Adjinsons, who is leader of the amateur category. Apologies, second place in the amateur category, did win the amateur category in race 1. And Powell with really struggling for pace, honestly, right now. He was 1 second slower than Avanzini on that last lap, so maybe the damage for Powell is affecting him quite badly.
Yeah, maybe. It does seem to be having some sort of effect. Not too sure how severe it is, but yeah, Adjinson's looking pretty quick at the moment. But he does have a Corvette behind, and we've seen Porsche versus Corvette with Raymond, Powell, Neumeier, and quite a few other drivers as well. Corvette, who's been struggling in the Porsche. But oh, what's happened there? Linden losing it on the brakes, sending it over to the right-hand side, turning himself on one of the Porsches. I think it was Adjinsons, who's now in 24. What on earth happened there? That was a really weird incident to turn to.
Yeah, that was a bit moving in the braking area, perhaps, and certainly caused havoc for those drivers. Very fortunate that more weren't involved on that occasion. Certainly, I think pretty much all the drivers out there have made contact at one point or another in this race. It's been absolutely vicious as this race too here at Red Bull Ring around the Apex Racing League GT Championship, sponsored by Wave Italy, as Broomfield feels the need to come into the pits now. Broomfield has got 11 incidents, so it's not due to a driving penalty. Must have damage. By the way, Jensen Adjinsons, maybe it was Mackenzie, I'm not sure if it was Adjinsons or Mackenzie's, got 21 incidents. A lot of drivers have got over 10 incidents, Dane. We saw drivers have problems in race 1 with the incidents, Danny Lee most notably. This second race is going to be a real problem with all the incidents we've seen.
Yeah, there's quite a few drivers pushing the limit. 16 is that limit where you'd have to come down to the drive-through penalty, and then every 8 incident points after that, so at 24 you'd have to come down again. But yeah, 3 drivers so far in the race have reached that 16 limit already, and there's quite a few that are getting close to it. I don't think there's anyone that has got 0 incident points. There's only one driver who's got 0 instant points, and that is Vin Glenn. He's very clean out there. I mean, he didn't start the race, so that might be part of it. He didn't get forced wide off the circuit, didn't have any 4x contacts, so he had a nice clean race. He's sitting in 19th, around about 4 seconds behind Prescott. As I say that, he's gone and got a 1x.
Well, you do get a bonus point for picking up 0 instant, so it is worth doing if you can. Bingham's very tight. This is dangerous for Neumeier. He would have barely been able to see him. That's the corner of his eye. But Bingham was very responsible there. Got on the brakes nice and early. And it's Neumeier up into second place. The gap is 4.6 seconds. Avanzini was faster on that last tour round, but Neumeier may well have been held up slightly. But it's slightly odd to him because Avanzini was so good in qualifying. You know, he beats all those drivers. I realised Neumeier and Laubich didn't take qualifying, but you know, he still out-qualified Lee and Powell and all those other top drivers. But in the race, he's not quite as quick, but he's doing enough at the moment. He's looking strong. He's built up a nice lead in these early stages.
There is a slight bit of damage to his car, and obviously we didn't get to see him really in race 1. He got swarmed at the start of the race, didn't have the best first opening lap, and then with that contact into turn 1, sent him down all the way to 10th, and then another mistake put him down into 14th. Yeah, he's not had his way in race 1, but race 2, he's out there 4 seconds to the gap between himself and Neumeier, but Neumeier very clearly the faster of the two drivers. Neumeier had to overtake Bingham and still gain 0.3 of a second on Avanzini that lap, so looks like it's only a matter of time before we see those two drivers head-to-head on the track.
Yeah, you do get a lot of laps in around this circuit. Just 1 minute 27. The lap times at the moment for the drivers. So yeah, plenty of laps still to go here. As that's one of the Centurion Racing drivers going a bit wide in the background. Just picking up a little bit of the excess tarmac. Starting to get a little bit more of a familiar front-running drivers at the moment. Avanzini, Neumeier up there, Bingham still punching above his weight. Rain though dropping back a bit, and because we know how much he's going to struggle to defend, maybe Crouch was exaggerating his straight line deficiencies in race 1 because I think Crouch was particularly fast down the straights. But apologies, it wasn't Crouch, it was Powell, I believe. He was sat behind certainly one of the EVRSI drivers. But he's still one star drivers, I think, is Rain. And the fact that now Deepal is on his tail could be a change. Albeit, I think, apologies, this was Rain actually getting past Powell relatively recently. So actually, I think that's a legit position for Rain. He was faster on that last lap as well. And now Powell's going to be overtaken by the other Powell. It's Aaron potentially leaving ahead of Dean. No relation on it.
We've got a few of those in this series. We've got the two Adjunses who are related, and then we've got the two Powells. And they're doing 3 wide almost into turn 2 there. Not ideal. Heading into turn 2, definitely don't want to be going 3 wide into there. It's not the smartest of moves. And Dean Powell almost lost out to Rinterbusch as well, but managed to keep in front just about. And he'll be trying to get that position back, but I don't think he'll have too much luck. The EVO SR cars, and specifically the EVO SR Corvettes, have looked very good up there today.
Yeah, they have, and always very evenly matched are those drivers. I think Powell's had an advantage for the first couple of meetings, but no doubt that I think Crouch has maybe had the advantage. Crouch is another one of those drivers, a bit like Powell. He's maybe a bit intermittent with his pace. Real quick one weekend and not quite so quick on the others, but that's certainly going to be a danger come the end of the season. Up their game, Nicholas Laubich really had an advantage over the rest of the field last season, but ever since then they have really been able to close up, and there's at least 6 or 7 drivers who could win this title this season. It's just in the pros, that's alone the Alps. Rinterbusch is going to be past Dean Powell, I think, who lost race 2 at Sonoma last season by 1/100 of a second to Nicholas Laubich, who you might come across later on in the event. Paldo defending well. Stopped into turn 2, now picks up the sausage curve. We've seen lots of drivers do that so far tonight. Fortunately, he's at least got enough turning circle to get back in the right direction, but that's a shame for him because I think he would have backed himself to actually stay ahead of Van Nesse, Bimbo and Pal, and now the other way round, he's got to make a move on all those drivers.
Yep, and that is Bimbo up into the top 10 as well. So a good comeback drive for Emil, and he's got Van Nesse and Lee in front. He's up 18 positions in this second race. So he started right near the back. Had some contact on that one that sent him a lap down, and then also got a drive through, for instance, on, in the first race. So didn't have the best first race, but trying to do better in this second race. He was saying before the race that his championship hopes are basically done after his first 2 rounds. Got basically nowhere in the first round. I don't think he finished any of the races, and basically didn't finish race 1 in this one either. So it's good to see him finally having a good race here in race 2.
Looks 80, making the change to the C8. Seemingly served him well. Antonese is next up on his list. And that is a sweet move there. Very odd camp around that corner. We've seen him Formula 1 the Jazz taking a very wide line, Sergio Perez in particular. Trying to kind of square up the corner, trying to get on the power early. It's not quite as bad in these cars, as much kind of power delivery, but we still see a little bit of a change in that outside line. Very profitable potentially for several of the drivers. This is a battle between John Tressida, okay, and England and Chris Prescott as well. Prescott ahead of Glenn. By the way, he was meant to start from pole position, of course, and I was very slow to recognise he didn't really take the start. He had another pit lane start to serve, so he picked up a couple of incidents back at Imola. And maybe Watkins Glen as well, and that's meant that he had 2 pit lane starts to serve, which is bad timing. Otherwise, I think he'd be leading this race right now. Also, another naughty boy from the previous round, Nicholas Laubich had to start from the pit, so that's why both of them are having such rubbish races in 16th and 18th. If it weren't for that, I think they'd probably be up in the top 5 right now.
Yep, both very quick drivers, so and that's very unfortunate again, isn't it? Having to start from the pit lane, having basically qualified on pole position. They don't normally see that because usually the drivers only have 1 pit lane to start to serve and do crash. Also, they don't take qualifying when they have a start. What's happening? Crouch there. That's very odd. Looks like something's happened in the braking zone of turn 2, and he's ended up in the wall and into the gravel, and then just reversed all the way up the hill. Very similar to what George Simmons did in 12 Hours of Hockenheim a few weeks ago. Also into turn 2. Very odd thing to see a car just reversing up the hill into a braking zone, and might have put off a couple of the drivers coming up behind it. So that's an odd one there. Yeah, it's cost quite a few positions.
Yeah, a replay of how that one happened. We also just saw Justin Ray move up into 3rd position in this race. But here is the replay now. Ooh. Who was that who he collided with? Was that Wurtersbusch? No, actually, I think I'm barking up the wrong tree there. I'm not quite sure who that was.
One thing's for sure, that's a very damaged Corvette. The rear that's missing off of that anymore. There's quite a few bits and pieces not quite in the right places there, and looks like Raymond and Bingham are going side by side at the moment for 3rd place. As Raymond's actually just dropped out of the session.
I think he's reconnected now. Should be alright, should Justin Ray. Of course, struggling with that straight line speed. We keep on having about it, but he is really struggling. It was Tiamina who collided with Crouch, so that was the battle for Team is now running in 20th, so I think Team actually lost out himself, potentially from all of that, so that is bad news for Crouchy. Needed a good round to really come back in the championship. You know, it is a long season. No one's really had a perfect season so far. Val, I think, has had probably the closest to that. Even he had a poor race too at Imola. So it's certainly time for Crouch to come back, but that is quite a heavy setback. He needs to accumulate as many points as possible. As looks like Aaron Powell is soon going to be past topping.
He is closing the gap as well. I'm interested to know what the newest thing. Neumeyer's just got within a second of Avanzini up at the front. Do you think he'll be able to catch and overtake it before the end of the race? That gap's just gone down to 0.7 seconds. As I say that, so I asked before the race, who does chat think is going to take to win the second race? No one said Neumeyer. Only one person responded. It was Lars Wheel, and he said someone. So I think he wins. So no matter what happens here, Lars has got the right answer with that one. So congratulations, Lars Wheel. And yeah, that's the gap at the front of the field. Neumeyer now closing the gap down to in half a second. I think he's got this one in the bag, to be honest, but he will have to overtake the Porsche. But in the battles we've seen between Corvettes and Porsche at the moment, it's not really been much competition, really, has it? Corvettes making easy work of the Porsches so far.
Yeah, this it's got it's quite inevitable, is this? That's what I think. You're right, the Porsches don't look like the fastest cars down the straight. Avanzini, I imagine, will get his elbows out late. He'll be willing to fight this one as hard as possible. But when he's 0.6 of a second lap slower, there really is very little you can do. Lee is past Adjinsons. He's got damage on that Corvette, but he's still got good pace. Does Danny Lee. He's up into 7th place. 10 places gained from his start, and he's actually faster than everyone apart from Michael Neumeyer on that last lap. Also, Emma Winbo was very quick, and you can see him in the background. He's going to get past Adjinsons as well into 2. So those two can continue to march on, and even the podium might be possible because Rame is in the mid-27s. These guys are in the high 26s, so over half a second lap faster, and it could be getting close, especially if Bingham is able to attack Rame. So I mean, imagine if Bimbo could get P3 out of this one. It would only be his second podium, I think, in ARL history. In fact, I think it'd be his first podium in ARL history.
I think he has got on the podium once before. I may be talking rubbish here, but potentially season 3 into Lagos. I'm trying to remember back. That's as far as my ARL GT knowledge goes. That's a very long time ago, that is. But I think he might have just got a podium before in ARL GT. But yeah, looking really strong in 8th at the moment, and that is the battle for the lead on the screen at the moment. Avanzini's got Neumeyer all over the rear of him, and that's the straight line speed advantage that the Corvette has over the Porsche at the moment. Around the outside through what should be turn 2, in towards what should be turn 3, but it's actually turn 2. And there is the new leader Neumeyer. He's just, he got it before the braking zone. The speed that he was able to carry was much greater than the Porsche.
Yeah, I think that's a small lift as well for Avanzini. They're not fighting it too much. I'm a bit surprised because they've got a big gap behind, so you may as well fight it a bit, but Avanzini just realising that he's so much slower, he's not got the weapons to defend. So Neumeyer looking to take what would be his first race win of the season, which is frankly surprising. He did get second place in the 80-minute race back at Watkins Glen, but yeah, yet to claim a race win. Still wouldn't be enough to put him at the top of the standings, and in fact he probably wouldn't score the most amount of points this evening, but it would certainly be a good result for him, playing back a few points. And what's the way into the season will be at the conclusion of this one. Rame is just clear of Bingham still, but he is not pulling away. Aaron Powell cannot get past Tom Bingham. What a performance this is from the amateur driver. One of the veterans of the series. Really works very hard, does Tom Bingham, and has improved significantly over the past few seasons. Maybe that's a curse. Maybe I should take responsibility for that slide round the final corner, because that is Bingham going to lose the position now into Ampar, who's up into 4. And that has really set him free to attack Rame up ahead.
Or hasn't. We've got Bingham up his inside for the kink here. Left-hand kink up into the braking zone. Always late on the brakes. Around the outside, he should be able to hold a good amount of speed, but no. He doesn't take advantage of the wide line he could have taken. Now he's under a bit of pressure from the Corvette behind of Michael Ritterbusch as well for Pacific Sim Motorsport. He's going to try and hold it around the outside of turn 3. And always going for the switchback actually, but that's not really going to work too well, because even if he had got alongside, he's stuck on the outside for turn 5, which, as we've seen multiple times in this race and in Formula 1 earlier, it just doesn't work around the outside of turn 5, and he's got a little bit deep there as well. Ritterbusch all over the rear of him now, and you think it's only a matter of time really before he can get past. 10 minutes to go in the race, or 11 minutes to go in the race, and that gap at the front of the field as well, by the way, 1.2 seconds, so Nomai already extending his advantage.
Looks excellent right now in the 26ers, one of the very few men who was able to consistently lap in the 26ers right now, so epic work for him. He's actually caught up to that Batsa as we've got a driver heading into the pits. What's that? Powell, sorry.
Yeah.
Now, is that, I reckon that is a penalty for incidents. I cannot see that on my screen, the overlay over the top of it, but yeah, I think that's a safe assumption to me.
It is a penalty. A lot of drivers actually getting penalties. There's actually a couple of drivers getting close to getting that second penalty, which is quite impressive, really. For drivers to be getting that many. It's quite good to say track limits are fairly lenient, but it looks like drivers are taking a bit of advantage of that, and as they always do. And yeah, it looks like they are not having much respect for the 1X, which unfortunately means they are having to head their way down pit lane. Quite a lot of drivers having to serve a penalty. I think 10 drivers have had to serve a penalty so far in the second race, and there's many more than that who are basically a 4X contact away.
So replay of a previous incident just coming up in a moment. And this was Tiamina, I believe, again. What has happened here is with one of the Centurion Racing drivers this time. And not a good day for those guys.
Oh! That was incredibly close there. And on the rear there for Taumina, getting back onto the racing line. Back live, and there goes Finbro. He's trying to make a move on Ritterbusch up into 7th. He's trying to go. He looks to the left-hand side. I think he might try to send it into the outside. Oh, they make contact, and somehow Ritterbusch holds it, and then he doesn't hold it. That is a hard impact to the outside wall there. I think they were both just trying to squeeze each other on the middle of the circuit. It ended up extremely badly for Ritterbusch. Yeah, that was terrible for him. But look at the speed that Wimber's carrying. He might be able to get 6th off of Bingham as well into turn 3.
Great from Bimbo around there. He's really used every inch of the circuit. It wasn't quite the ideal exit, but he has got the inside line for this next corner, and he is past Tom Bingham. Excellent move there from Bimbo. If the first one was questionable, there was no doubt about that one. And yeah, just that curve, that turn 2, or not a corner, whatever you're going to call it, really caused problems for those couple of drivers. I imagine the stewards will probably have a look at that later on, as Bimbo has run hopelessly wide there, and he's allowed Bingham, who is usually very quick through turn 1, into turn 2 to get back close. Lee passed all of these drivers now, up into 5th place, and you'll see some horrendous lap times for these drivers. Across line 29 there for Bingham, 29 for Vantanese, a little bit slow as well.
Oh, it looks like
to come back to the pits then to fix that damage.
And it looks like Wimber's got a drive-through penalty for that contact, but not for the contact, but for the instant points that came with it. It looks like Wimber might have a drive-through penalty for that, so that's not very good for him. He's going to lose quite a bit of time for that. So unfortunately for him, that 6th place potentially making his way up into 5th is not going to last particularly.
Where will that put him back into, I wonder, probably behind Tom Brown maybe. Drive through won't be that bad for him. And there will be others as well who will probably pick one up later on. Tressida is, this battle is still going, isn't it? So it's Tressida ahead of Mackenzie, ahead of Drury. Just a little bit of backing there, so these are a few drivers on different laps at the moment, battling one another, so it's all a little bit complex to know what's going on, but yeah, keep an eye out for the SR liveried car, Chester and Mackenzie in the Ford GT, cannot mistake it. I think actually Mackenzie's going to be able to make this move on Chester, because Chester was very generous, but now they've got more of the front runners coming through. This is Binbo, I think one of the drivers making his way through. It's real tricky to know what to do in this situation, especially when these drivers have got particularly intelligent spotters to help them. Look at Laubish, this is pole position, and he is getting past Matt Chambers right there. It's Vanetti just ahead in the BMW. Laubish has had a very quiet race too. Hasn't had exceptional pace, maybe suffering from the pace of that Porsche. He is still making some progress. Chambers back up the inside. Might understeer into the new Rana eSports driver, the defending champion, of course. Here's Nicholas Laubish. Racing through this fantastic middle part of the lap. Contact between the two of them. Laubish into 10. And Chambers, I wonder, will try to come back with a bit of vengeance later on. So that's a rather forceful move.
Yeah, that was pretty forceful, wasn't it? Taking a bit of the circuit when he was on the inside. Luckily, didn't end any worse for him, and Took carried on there the way as now look a little bit further on through the field.
And looks like
he is into the pits along with Albish.
I guess that's a drive-through as well, isn't it?
No, he's stopping.
Hopefully this is just
oh,
a
it's
fast
fuel. It's fuel. He's miscalculated his fuel, I think, and he's having to make a splash.
So Binbo was behind Brown, like I said, but he's also behind Glenn. He's meant to start on reverse grid pole. Glenn in the low 27s at the moment. I really think he could have won this race, honestly, if he had taken to the grid, but with a pit lane start to serve, that ended any hopes for him. Should be a good battle between these two. Laubish still in the pits then, so it wasn't damage, was it? But it's it can't be a disqualification. They can't get disqualified with the instant overrules that we use. So it must be something going on in the real world. I just hope that he doesn't finish more than 2 laps down, otherwise he won't score any points.
Well, he's already just gone 1 lap down, unfortunately for him. Oh, he's back up onto the circuit now, onto the pit exit. So that was an extremely long stop for him. But did he forget to untick tyres? He didn't take tyres either, so there must have been something else.
Pick up pit lane entry, perhaps.
That's a good shout.
Usually that would be 40 seconds, but it was 31 in the end, so it makes sense if it was a 30-second penalty, maybe. Just, we might get an interview with him later on, and that would be very interesting to know. Yeah, lots of questions after this round of the championship, and well, we're about to get a couple of answers in 3 minutes' time when the checker flag is waved. Glenn is, yeah, real under pressure now from Binbo. I think Glenn should have the pace, honestly, but Binbo might have some more straight line speed. Glenn has been forced off his line a little bit there. And he is going to be very vulnerable. Round the back marker they go, but Glenn's got to get back to the right side of the circuit here to cover up the inside line. Binbo going the long way round. Now he pulled off a brilliant move in this circumstance a few laps ago. And I think he might do the exact same thing here. He's got the car alongside, and this is very much him with the upper hand.
Yep, he's just got himself up into 11th. There's quite a bit of a gap though to Brown in front, so I'm not too sure if he'll be able to catch that up. There's only 2 minutes left of the race. Oh, that's a penalty, that is, and that's terrible for him. And this is interesting because Lee and Bimbo were pretty close, heading when Bimbo had to make his penalty his drive-through penalty. So Lee's probably going to come out right next to these 2 drivers, probably just in front. So we could still have a battle here for the final top 10 position. He's just come out the pits there, and actually no, he hasn't. He's come out just behind because of the speed difference, and Bimbo's going to get ahead. Is Glenn as well? I think not. I think Lee's just going to have him covered on the inside potentially. Heading into turn 2, yes he has. He's going to send up the inside now on what quite possibly could be the last lap. Oh, he's got a bit loose there, and that's not going to help him. Then mix that easily on the power, and Bimbo's up into the top 10 again.
Just a reminder to the viewers, the drivers aren't meant to come into the pits, but lots of drivers have made that problem for themselves, picking up so many incidents, and of course contact, some which probably their fault, some which faults at all. Lavi's trying to get 1 extra point, every point counts. Finished 3rd back at Watkins Glen. It certainly wasn't a great start to the season for him. Seeing that pole in that race. It's been a great Imola, and it's been a very disappointing Red Bull ring, but he has got a lot of fights in Nicholas Lavi's very positive mindset as well. And he will very much be thinking that he can come back in this one, considering he was so far back at the mid-weight stage of last season. He did end up the champion. The white flag is out. He might have started his last lap, and so everyone crosses the line from here on in will be starting their last lap. Tom Bingham is going for the amateur class win against Dar Adjusons. Bingham, at least from what I've seen, has had excellent straight line speed. I know that BMW isn't necessarily winning down the straights anymore, but at least the way that he's tuned that car up, he's really been very racy heading into that turn 2, and he has held on to that one. Meanwhile, Powell versus Rim. I think Powell is going to make this move right at the close. He's up the inside into turn 3. That's a crucial move for the championship leader, who is really raking in these points right now. And despite it only being a 3rd and a 5th place, I think tonight, a 3rd and a 4th, sorry, I think he will be the highest point scorer. But there's no doubt who is going to take the race to win, and his first race win in Apex Racing League history as well. For Logitech G Altus Esports, it is Michael Newmeyer who wins race 2 at Red Bull Ring. A fantastic drive from 15th on the grid, but he was storming through the order in the end. Avanzini comes home in 2nd place. Powell with a brilliant podium. Will Bingham hold of Adjusons, or will it be a Marquez Dobby situation? It will be Bingham who takes home 5th place. Big points for him in the Amateur Championship. Whilst Drew Becker wasn't around tonight, it sure was competitive in that amateur category throughout. Brandon S.A. finishes in 7th place out of those amateur drivers, and Bimbo managed to hold back Glenn and Lee to round out the top 12. A very different race that, honestly, to anything we've seen so far this season, Dane. I think very error-prone were the drivers tonight. There were some over-aggressive moves, I'm not going to lie, and lots of off-tracks as well. It's quite unusual to see after some terrific driving at Imola and at Watkins Glen in particular, for the drivers to be quite so error-prone around this circuit.
Yep, obviously it's a brand new circuit, so that might play into things a little bit. That might be a cause of that, but the drivers have had plenty of time to practice, so 26 days. A week since the last round at Imola, so they've had plenty of time to practice for this round. So yeah, I think it's just the fact that they've never raced a circuit before is playing a huge role in that. And also, just looking at this, I think I'm seeing, if I can count correctly, which I hope I can, 14 drivers in the 2nd race having to make a drive-through penalty for incident points, which is an insane number of drivers getting those penalties. It's almost as many penalties as we saw in F1 today.
Yes, what a day it's been. Yeah, that is pretty crazy. It was sure entertaining though. Of course, if you want to see more races like this, then make sure to subscribe to Apex Racing TV, and of course leave this video a like, because that way you're more likely to get recommended our videos, and in particular from this series. This is one of the best series we broadcast on Apex Racing TV, in my opinion. Probably does take the biscuit, honestly. So make sure to give us a like, and yeah, you can watch many more of them. Also check out our Twitch channel once again, where you can get a slightly lower latency, so when you're following along with the SDK Gaming live timing, you can see the data that much easier. And also check out our Facebook, Twitter and Instagram pages as well, where you can constantly see little clips from each of our races. I think we'll have a few choices of what to go for this series, but yeah, there's little minute long videos showing the highlights from all the races that we broadcast on Apex Racing TV. We've also got to give a big shout out to Wave Italy as well for helping us out for this series, providing some amazing prizes as well. Wave Italy Wave Italy providing a most comprehensive driver simulator training really in the world, along with designing their own peripherals as well. They use real track data to specifically produce wheels and pedals that recreate the real life driving experience. That's their aim, to make you feel like you're driving a real life car. You can see the fantastic driver base they have as well back in Verona in Italy over on their website. A couple of really interesting videos where you can really check out what Wave Italy is all about. And for the winners for this championship, the pro drivers get a choice of Wave Impetus Imola or Wave Impetus Monza sim pedals in a colour of their choice, and the AM drivers get a half day of professional coaching at the Wave Italy Professional Training Centre in Verona. A couple of absolutely terrific prizes. And also you guys can get a 5% discount for all Wave Italy products if you just go to waveitaly.com and you use the code APEXRACING5. I think you've got to put a capital A as well in that. If you use that, then you can get a 5% discount, which is absolutely awesome. So big thanks to Wave Italy for supporting us, supporting the Apex Racing League GT Championship. So I believe we may well have the results then for this second race of the evening. And it was a terrific result in the end for Michael Neumeyer, who was able to take the spoils. Thomas Avanzini in second place. Then it was Aaron Powell, Justin Rame, Tom Bingham, Dara Adjinsons. Chris van der Nesse was in 7th place. Matty Chambers was in 8th. By the way, Tom Bingham, by the way, top of the amateur drivers. So big shout out to him. Terrific result on his part. Matthew Chambers was in 8th, then it was Tom Brown, Emil Vinberg, Vin Glenn. With that drive-through penalty, Dean Powell, his teammate, just behind in 13th. Then it was Chris Prescott, Tom Collins, Mikael Ruttersbusch, who was fighting fairly high up actually, was at one point was Mikael. Jack Tingy was in 17th place. Then it was James Koulibaly with a good drive actually, up 12 places from James, so very good result from him. David Gary had a very mixed up race after a really good race 1, only ending up 19th in race 2. Nicholas Laubisch was stationary in the pits for the best part of half a minute. He ended up in 20th place, really recovered well with good pace. Behind him was Nicholas Matthews, Colin Mackenzie, John Tressida, Angel Pedrero, Vincenzo Tiamina, Dominic Linden, James Crouch, Stephen Broomfield, Alex Traber, Jensen Adjansons, Kevin Kitzman and Christian Engelhardt. The bottom 8 of those drivers all getting, all not finishing the race, all finishing over 2 laps down, and therefore will not have any points to their total. We're going to be able to show you a couple of replays of various incidents that happened through the race, and I believe, Dane, this first one shows an incident with Tom Bingham.
Yep, this is Laubisch's pit entry, cutting all over the inside there. I'm not entirely sure how the line works there. We saw this happen with Yuki Tsunoda, but I think he's just possibly run a little bit too deep. I know that there is a bit of a leniency there on the speed limit, but I'm not too sure if it was a penalty, because it does seem like a... a weird place to a weird amount of time for a speeding in a pit lane penalty. I think it's normally more like 40 seconds for that. So it's a very odd thing that he ended up stationary for so long.
Yeah, I wonder if you're kind of allowed to do whatever you want as long as you don't clip the grass, perhaps. Maybe that's the threshold which the drivers have got to be cautious of. He certainly did clip the grass, and that just maybe cost him a bunch of time in the pits. So a huge shame for him on that one, and hopefully we see him back stronger for the next round. I think we're going to be able to go through some interviews now with drivers from tonight. Certainly plenty of stories to get our teeth stuck into. First up, I think we've got to have a chat with Tom Bingham, because he was able to come out on top in race 2, managing to claim the amateur class victory. Congratulations, Tom. That was hard-earned. I wouldn't be surprised if you worked up a sweat right there, but wow, that must feel very satisfying to beat Dara right at the last.
Yeah, it was a hell of a race. I don't know how much you guys saw on the stream, but hopefully a fair bit. I was struggling with the off tracks actually towards the end. I was just petrified of running too wide and getting a drive through and losing the position. But Dara's awfully quick, and he was just tracking me down, and I'm just so happy to have got the win there.
It doesn't seem like the BMW is the go-to car anymore. The BMWs weren't running too high up, but you were doing a pretty good job in it tonight. I mean, how do you assess its performance right
now? On the straights, it's unbelievably good, and if you've got a bit of speed around some of the corners and you have the downforce, it's awesome. But there was 2 turns which I was just losing so much grip on. Quite a few guys passed me on the inside on the second turn. Actually, I think it was turn 5, maybe. It's the hairpin left-hander, then the kink left, kink right, just before it comes down towards the start-finish line. The setup was perfect apart from those 2 corners. But I think the beam is all right. Everyone thinks it's terrible, but you get it on the straights and it can hold its own.
That's good to hear. He likes to always have a fairly competitive car order. And I mean, with that, good points in both races. I mean, 12th and 5th tonight. I assume your aims are on that amateur championship. You are a championship winner in this series in the past. I think you won the amateur teams championship last season, if I'm correct in saying. But I assume the drivers amateur championship is the one you're going for this season.
Yeah, everybody wants the drivers' championship. The team one is nice to have, and it's a good joint effort. But it's just you and your machine, and beating the competition. There's nothing better and nothing purer than that. That's what I'm aiming for. Fingers crossed. It could all go wrong next race. You never know.
Yeah, it certainly could. Next up, we've actually got Moss Sport. From what I remember, if you're quick down the straights there, you're impossible to overtake. So that could be quite good.
Yeah. I don't know if you remember the previous round of ARL GT where I ran in second, I think, for like 2/3 of the race, and then I spun it and got passed by about 10 cars. But I like Moss Sport. The Beamer likes it as well. Chris Van der Ness has been working on the setups a lot with me for the Beamer as well, and it's paying dividends to keep up with the Porsches and especially the Corvettes. They seem ridiculous at the moment. The exit speed that they've got out of the corner and things is just it's hard to match.
Well, best of luck for that one, Tom. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, a big shout out to Chris, obviously, for helping me with the setup. The Performance Link team, just anyone else out there that knows me, and yeah, looking forward to the next one.
Great. Well, thanks for having a chat with us, Tom, and congrats on that brilliant result tonight.
Cheers, Sam. Thanks a lot.
Tom Bingham there, finishing in 12th and 5th, crucially getting that amateur race win in race 2. Dane, who are we going to see next?
Well, I think out of the 2 drivers waiting, I think we'll take Emil Winbo. He finished higher up in the order in race 2, only by a couple of positions, it must be said. So let's get him up here for a quick chat then. Emil, welcome. Not the race one that you would have been hoping for. I think you were a lap down after the first few laps. Starting from the pit lane as well wasn't an easy first race for you.
No. Yeah, I was just a bit ambitious, I think, at the end of lap 1, trying to... someone had gone off out of turn 7, something like that. The second left-hander. And yeah, the 2 cars ahead of me had overtaken him into turn, or the second to last corner. I tried to do the same, but went in a bit fast. Got a massive snap oversteer. I just corrected it, but slammed into the side of him, broke my car, so that's on me. Can't say anything else. But then just finished the race, had really good pace for once. But yeah, shame was a lap down.
Yeah, and then in race 2, starting from the back again, you made up 18 positions throughout the race, getting yourself up to 6th place and almost up into 5th as well, and then just collecting one too many incident points and having to take a drive-through penalty. That must have been pretty frustrating for you. You could have possibly had a top 5 finish on the cards.
Yeah. I think, yeah, I had good pace, same as race 1. Was up to P6 or P5 before I had to pit for the drive-through. Just pushing off tracks a bit too hard and 1 or 2 4Xs, so it happens, sucks, but same for everyone, I guess. And I wasn't alone to get a drive-through, so.
No, I think you were joined by 13 other drivers in the second race alone. Quite a lot of drivers having to take a drive-through penalty in the second race. I think it wasn't too many in the first race either. I think there was quite a few in the first race too. You've also got MoSport in the next round, Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. What are your thoughts of that circuit as we head into the 4th round of the season?
It's fun, but I have a tendency to go on the grass a lot, which I've heard doesn't yield very good race finishes.
Yeah, I think MoSport, no tarmac runoff to speak of there. It's all grass, and yeah, grass tends to come straight before a wall, a visit to the wall. So yeah, hopefully you can avoid the grass at MoSport for round 4. Well, Emil, congrats on the good pace. Commiserations on what could have been a top 5 finish for you. Thanks for joining us for an interview. But before we let you go, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
Is everyone at ARL for putting on the league, ARTV for the broadcast, and everyone at Kairos for the support as teammates.
Absolutely. Well, Emil, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you at MoSport.
Yeah, see you.
It was great to hear from him there, getting a top 10 finish in the end in race number 2. And Sam, we have got a bit of a replay to show on the broadcast. I think it might be the incident between Emil and who was it at the into turn 2? It was.
I believe, yeah. One of the stranger incidents of the evening, and I mean, I'm not a fan of constantly comparing stuff to Formula 1 by any means. It was a little bit similar to the Vettel-Raikkonen one earlier on. When you've got a curve like that, one driver expects you to turn that much, and then the other driver expects you to turn a different amount. And they came together. Undoubtedly, I think Run Special will be very annoyed with that one. And, maybe we'll protest it, maybe Minbait will protest it. They're not too happy about that incident that really did wreck Mikkel's race after finishing up in 2nd place in race 2. We're also going to get an interview now with Mr. Danny Lee, who had who's had a frustrating season so far this season, Danny. But I think that one may just take the top, because 2 drive-throughs right at the end of both races must be bitterly disappointing.
It certainly is. I could go on and on about how the iRacing 16x system, which is applied globally, everybody has to deal with it, and it just comes along and kicks your sandcastle down just when you've got a good thing going. It's race 1 would have been a completely different ball game had it not been for fear of the drive-through penalty system sort of coming down on the things. I had 12x after lap 3 because of an incident. Just bumper taps, things that normally wouldn't be processed at all. You just get on with your day, but the system registers it. And then from then on, I had to just tiptoe all the way around race 1, despite having the pace to attack Crouch and Routerbusher. I believe I might be getting his name wrong there, but yeah, definitely had to take it really easy in race 1, and even so, turned on the taps a couple of laps till the end to try and make an attack, and a millimetre too far over the curb on the last turn, and that was it. Drive through bestowed upon me, and being the last lap, I couldn't fully serve it, so it potted me down to 17th after a really good race 1, which should have ended much differently to that.
I'll try to take some of the positives, though. We'll forget what happened at the end of race 2. On the most part, that race 2 must have been very fun because you had very good pace. I mean, looking at your times, you were, on the most part, second or third fastest out on track, only behind Neumeier. You made some good moves, you were up into 5th place, so, you know, I guess you can take some enjoyment out of that.
Yeah, honestly, the race in itself, it's my own fault for kind of tipping over the incident points limit, because I kind of disregard it. I just want to race hard and reasonably within the limits, and sometimes that means I'll eat too much curb or go over the strict limits. That seemed a little bit arbitrary at times, but race 2 was brilliant. Some brilliant racing, really clean for the most part, really good action, and it could have just gone on till the end. I really would have loved to have posted a 5th place after starting from 17th, but because of earlier incidents in the early laps, you know, it's always chaotic. I think Gary and Crouch came together and Crouch got sent across the track. That's a 4x right there. Were it not for that, it would have been a clean finish, but, you know, change the record, I would say, and just take the positives from it. As you say, it was really fun. Both races were great action-wise, but the final grid results don't show that at all.
Next up, we got Mosport. You nearly took your first ever race win at Mosport, to bring up sore wounds, sorry. But that outside move on McMahon lives very much in my memory. I'm sure it lives in your memory as well. It's a good circuit for you, though. I mean, that was one of your strongest meetings a couple of seasons ago, so you must be feeling confident.
It's a marvellous circuit. I really love Mosport. It's one of them hidden gems that's just seems so good to drive. I don't think that story is going to repeat itself this time around, however, because McMahon was in the GT last in that particular season, which was a little bit down on straight line speed. Here, the board is much more even. Most folks are in the C8, which seems to be the car of choice at this moment in time. It's going to be good. There's such good racers at the front end of the grid. They're so clean, so close. It will be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. Well, who would you like to give any thanks to, Danny?
Oh, that's Pineapple Grips. They obviously create custom grips for most Fanatec wheels, particularly the formulas. Thanks to you guys for the broadcast and the league. Do such a great job. And to the grid for today's really good, strong, clean, fun racing.
Well, thanks for having a chat with us, Danny, and we'll see you next week.
See you again.
Danny Lee there, well, in the end, it was nearly a 4th place finish in race 1, but it was a 17th and a 12th for him. Taking a bit of a hit in the championship, but no doubt he's still one of the favourites for the title this season. Dane, these first few races all vastly different to one another. I mean, Watkins Glen, Imola, Red Bull Ring, and Mosport. No, you know, absolutely bizarre circuits out of them. You know, none of them are street circuits as such, but I still feel like they're all very different to one another. Mosport, for me at least, and maybe I'm biased from Wednesday night when you saw me spend half an hour stuck behind another driver. It's very tricky to pass around there. You have got the Andretti straight, but maybe a bit like Barcelona turn 1, you haven't got a braking point at the end of it, and so it's very tricky to overtake, and everywhere else it's just corners. So I imagine the reverse grid, how big that is going to be quite significant.
Yeah, that's exactly what we saw, as you mentioned, on Wednesday evening in the Apex Racing Academy Porsche Cup Championship. That was it was really awful to watch, because you could see the drivers behind getting increasingly more and more frustrated because they were faster, but they could not get past to save their lives. It was really tough to watch. very, very, very difficult to overtake there, just because of the nature of the corners. I think it will be probably a little bit easier to overtake in these higher downforce cars in the GTE cars, but in the Porsche Cup car, it was basically impossible to overtake. We saw, I think, 3 overtakes in the second race with the reverse grid that weren't just because the driver in front made a mistake into Moss corner, which took quite a few cars out of the race, really. So I think we'll see more cars into the barriers than we'll see cars just actually making overtakes cleanly on the circuit. You can see there on the bottom, that's the Mario Andretti straightaway, as it's called, even though it's not straight at all. Yeah, that's basically the best overtaking opportunity. It goes into an extremely wide radius corner at turn 8 DS's, so it's not the best place to try and overtake, because the driver in front can just defend the inside. You basically have nowhere to go. So it's a very tricky circuit to overtake at, but if you can figure it out, then it could give us a good race. And some unexpected results, especially if the reverse grid is a little bit larger than what we saw today.
Yeah, and I mean, we saw a surprise result at Imola, didn't we, with a 23 car reverse tonight. It was maybe a little bit more predictable, but still another couple of different race winners. So far, out of 5 races we've had this season, we've had 4 different race winners. And so really it could go to anyone in the next race of the championship. That will be on at the same time next week on Apex Racing TV at 19 GMT. We'll be going live. And of course, once again, a 2-race format, a 25-minute race followed by a 40-minute race, as we really get to grips with this Season 5 of the Wave Italy Apex Racing League GT Championship. Hopefully, if you've enjoyed this broadcast, I'm sure you have. There's some terrific racing out there. Please do leave a like on this video. Subscribe to Apex Racing TV. Check out our Twitch channel and also visit our Instagram, our Facebook and our Twitter pages as well for constant updates about all the racing that's going on Apex Racing TV. Big thanks, of course, to Wave Italy, to Apex Racing Academy, and to SDK Gaming for supporting the series and supporting the broadcast as well. My name has been Sam Fitzpatrick. Dane Baird has been alongside me. Sam Kume and Mark Chancer have been working hard in the background. And once again, a big shout out to all the guys who have worked for the production side of things at Apex Racing TV to produce this awesome broadcast. We will see you next time out then at Moss Sport for meeting 4 of the season, but for now we will say goodbye.